Hi, everybody. Hi, Rajesh.
Hello, good morning, Vivi.
Good morning to everybody and good morning to the BEqualise community. So today I am extremely happy because we have the pleasure to talk to Rajesh. I've met him a few months ago and we decided to involve him into the BEqualise project. And so today we're going to discuss a bit more about who he is, his work, and how we believe he can really help these patients. So welcome and thanks again, Rajesh, to be with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and thank you for having faith in my work. It
Sure,
was really pleasure connecting with you for these few months. Thank you
sure.
so much.
You're most welcome. So, just to give a brief introduction to all our viewers and to the people that have been following BEqualise, as you know, BEqualise is a platform for mainly focusing on dizzy patients. And unfortunately, when you're dizzy, a lot of the time patients experience secondary mood disorders, meaning they have other symptoms related more to a psychological, psychiatric sphere, such as anxiety and depressions. These are very common and unfortunately they're seen widely. And so if you really want to get rid of your dizziness, there is no way that you ignore this mood and these kind of symptoms. This is why it's really important to work in a multidisciplinary sphere with different experts. And this is why we decided to involve also Rajesh. Just to give a brief overview, I've met him a few months ago, and Rajesh is based in Abu Dhabi, and his work has been ongoing for many, many years. And perhaps, Rajesh, you want to just give us a brief introduction about who you are, your education, so
Yes.
you know. Thank you.
Academically, I come from a biotechnology background where I mastered in the comparative human anatomy and human physiology as my educational background. But over a period of time, when I started observing behavior and I went through my own journey, I started seeking some health answers for myself, where I started exploring holistic modalities in order to understand that why body is producing disease. When we use the term disease, it's displacement of ease. So when that ease gets displaced, I started finding out the reasons for, why is this happening? And that question led me to a modality called clinical hypnotherapy, which is non-invasive, drugless, complementary way of healing people. And of course, when in the medical terminology, when we say curing and healing, they're two different things. Curing is purely recovering the physical damage that has happened, but that's a curative approach. Where there's a preventive approach, where actually ensuring through your holistic way of a lifestyle, where the damage doesn't happen to the physical body. Because most of the lifestyle diseases, or even dizziness, or anything which is neurological or psychosomatic in nature, it is already that the damage has happened to the body. So what we tried doing was with curative to preventive, that the other layers, when we say thoughts, emotions, energy, and physical body. So by the time the body is bearing the brunt, it's already come. But through the energy, emotions, and thought, how can we reverse is what then became my mission over a period of time. And I've dedicated about 20 years into different diseases which are psychosomatic and neurological disorders, where I've worked with the waist below paralysis, Parkinson's, anxiety, of course, being the most common that comes in. So that's how clinical hypnotherapy is my primary modality through which I work. But I do combine a lot of energy work and healing through crystals, etc., also in this, which
Okay.
I'll, of course, briefly explain it.
Yes, and just for the people that have no idea what is actually hypnotherapy, because I've got many people ask me, what does he do? What is his job? How does it work? Maybe you can just briefly explain a bit more about it.
Yes. So when we talk about hypnotherapy, if you break the term hypno and therapy, people do get scared the moment hypnotism or hypnosis as a word comes in. Initially, when I got trained, the moment I used to introduce myself or give my visiting card to someone that I'm a hypnotherapist, all the eyes would turn away from me, because people had this, fancy thought that where people do mesmerize, with the eye fixation and those kind of fear psychosis that comes up. But actually, hypnotic principles, when they get used into a therapeutic purpose in a clinical format, is where I'll tell you there are a lot of therapy practices like cognitive behavior or psychotherapy that people come across. So people don't know the difference between the cognitive therapy and hypnotherapy. So cognitive therapy is mostly talking to the conscious cognitive way of changing a rule from a previous one that is not working for you to adapting to a new behavior. But the behavior is not just your thoughts. Behavior is also about your beliefs, which is coming from the experiences, which is purely in your subconscious mind. If you treat conscious mind like your processor, like how a computer has a processor which has a capacity to process the very nod, for example, you are giving me is yes, I'm processing, it makes sense what you're saying, and at one point in time, if you don't agree to me, you will question me. So cognition always will come up with defense, debate, doubt. So not all the rules that you apply or the therapist is telling you, you will be able to apply them. There is a certain amount of compulsiveness or obsessiveness that we come across when it comes to certain autonomic responses like anger, for example, or feeling suddenly a panic or an anxiety, as we have autonomic nervous system which has two parts, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. The moment crisis comes in, Dr. Vivi, the the up the mind starts climbing up the anxiety curve with the panic. Now, until that problem is solved, that panic will keep rising
Sure.
and keep going. So, with hypnotherapy, what are we doing? We are going to the cause, because the effect is the anxiety, effect is the panic, effect is dizziness, effect is anger. What is the cause?
Yeah.
So, when you trace it back, like if you treat subconscious mind like a hard disk, if the hard disk knows what the problem is, the hard disk knows where the problem started. So with hypnotherapy, we combined regression therapy, going back in time to that point of entry from where your consciousness started jumping out with that response. And that is what we help them recover, going
Mhm.
back to those traumatic memories and recovering those frozen parts of them to bring them back and integrate and become whole. So becoming whole is what heal means. And
Yeah.
that is how the word health, Health. So
Yeah.
when you become complete within here and the now, you will not have any disorders, any
Yeah.
discomfort or disease.
Okay, that's fantastic. And perhaps I just like to mention one thing for all our viewer is that in BEqualise, we are, of course, following our research and the Western type of medicine, but we are really strongly encouraging this holistic approach, which we might be hated for, but I do believe it works massively. So
100%.
it means that we combine experts. So we do have people that if a patient wants to join our platform and request a normal consultation with our ENTs or neurologists, they're most welcome. But if they also want to explore something different, they're also most welcome. And the two should not be mutually exclusive. This is one of the things that's always happening in any healthcare system. Either you go one way or the other. What we're trying to do is to combine them, because sometimes you do need to follow the typical standard of care. You need your medication, you need to follow what the doctor's recommendations are, but then you can also work on your subconscious mind and perhaps an aspect of your personas that you haven't explored fully. And this is why I'm very grateful indeed that you decided to join us. Okay, a little bit more about the type of work that you've been doing in the past, because you mentioned many things. Perhaps
Yes.
there are a few things that you believe our user could benefit from in terms also
Yes.
of you mentioned before that you also, when you access the subconscious mind, you go to the root cause, but then they also have to process and work on themselves, right?
Both. Both. So, as you rightly said, see, the medical fraternity as doctors, when they work with the physical body, when it has penetrated through all the layers and when the damage has happened to the body, doctors are God. That is how, doctors do a fabulous job. But as I said, that before it has penetrated through the body, because let's understand that I have an emotional turmoil and a quarrel with someone at work where there is something that I don't like, let's say politics, which is the commonest thing that people go through, something that I'm not able to control. That's what will start giving a person the anxiety. And there is this nasty dialogue that I had with my colleague from morning to evening. It will stay with my cognitive ability. I'll keep processing it. How did I feel? Because slowly from the thought, it will come down to my feelings, where I'll start feeling sensory discomfort, heaviness in the chest, or some kind of burden, or some tightness in my neck area. If I am hitting the bed with the same amount of discomfort, I have to digest, uncreate, delete, and destroy the ill effect of the pain that I went through throughout the day. If I sleep with that pain, I will slowly copy from the cognitive to the subconscious association, which will stay with my body as an identification and association if I don't do anything about that feeling before I go off to sleep. And the more I keep suppressing and repressing, because our mind is the lord of suppression and repression or denial. When
Yes.
we do that, we actually put it in our cellular memory, in our DNA. What you actually keep putting it over a period of time, because we've learned that energy cannot be destroyed, nor it can be created. It can be transferred or transformed from one form to another. So all your thought, which is your potential energy, if you don't process it, it becomes kinetic energy, and it goes and stays or gets stored in the weakest organ as a part of that disease. And then over a period of time, you're looking at discomfort or diseases. So
Sure.
we actually have come up with several techniques in which you, before going off to sleep, before it gets copied into your subconscious mind by the time, because the last 30 minutes, when we are going off to bed, the conscious mind is handing over the control to the subconscious mind, because the conscious mind is going off to sleep, it's getting knocked out. So that is the golden 30 minutes in which how you're processing your day and with what conclusion you're sleeping becomes a part of your subconscious mind, and it will stay as your cellular association, and eventually over a period of time it will go into your DNA. So how your DNA is unlocking the disease is also something that we've studied over a period of time,
Mhm.
and how it can be uncreated before going off to sleep so that you do not put it in your body.
Okay,
That's
so
the experience of our life.
in other words, you encourage all your patients to work through their emotions on
Before
the
they go off to sleep.
on the foundation that emotions are able to also create
Yeah,
this.
deal with it then and there. Because the trigger, when we talk about that, when someone criticizes me, I have a previously installed program through my conditioning of my childhood, that there was some person who used to criticize me all over, all the time. And that reminds me of the frustration when this person represents that similar texture. I will exactly have a similar response through my neurological associations, and I will get frustrated, irritated, angry, avoidance, dizziness,
Whatever.
all of it at the end of it.
Mhm. So a lot of the patients that they are unfortunately affecting by vestibular disorders, they always, and we also quantify that in research, have
Yes.
stress as a trigger. And this is the most beautiful example. Whenever they're stressed, they have either higher dizziness, or they have higher tinnitus, or they have higher symptoms in general. So there is a direct correlation. In neurophysiology, we describe that as basically the fact that the stress is able to dysregulate the GABAergic system. I mean, all the neurotransmitters, and therefore they're also influencing the way we process the multisensory integration of balance. But if we think about the fact that emotions are not processed, it makes even more sense. That's why probably they get dizzy. I think there are so many people that will relate with this.
Because see, the word stress, or when we say emotions are not processed, they become baggage. And that baggage makes you sluggish, because you want to flow at a certain speed, but then that baggage is not allowing you to move forward. So the very word stress is something that I'm not able to handle. And the moment I'm not able to handle, and if there is an authority or a system that makes me accountable to constantly keep delivering to my optimum, or even my own software, which constantly pushes me to perfection, which perhaps I'm not able to. So what happens, a part of a certain awareness gets engaged into something that I'm not able to do, so I'm not good enough, and I'm not good enough, so I'm not able to do stuff, and it keeps pushing the person into a downward spiral. In that downward spiral, the consciousness of the person jumps out of the body. That dizziness is when, let's say if you're pushing yourself up the anxiety curve, which is the sympathetic, and your crisis is just not getting over. So dizziness or fainting or collapsing is an auto shutdown command by the subconscious mind to the autonomic nervous system. Otherwise, the damage will happen beyond repair. That's the time it shuts down, and that dizziness stops the person and makes them sit. And then the parasympathetic actually kicks in, and the person will grasp, with their breath, and they'll sit and they'll understand and they'll calm down. They'll drink water. By that time, the environment at least will stop pressurizing them, because typically in our neurological associations we have fight and flight, but
Yeah,
there are situations where neither fight works nor flight works.
yeah,
So
yeah.
play dead is exactly
We,
jumping out.
yeah, we also have a lot of patients that they have dizziness 24/7, like they live with it. It's chronic. So in these cases, I mean, there are many reasons why this is happening. But again, one of the things that many of them, they seems to at least report a slight improve is also when they really tackle different lifestyles. So they tackle everything. They learn how to take it easy, do meditation, eat differently, and take a 360 degrees approach. And then sometimes the dizziness, the intensity decreases, you know.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the fact that we have a workshop. So for everybody, we are going to have Rajesh as a guest on our workshop on the 3rd of August. And you can find more information on our channel, YouTube, or our page, and whatever, also on Instagram. What would you like to give a message? What is the workshop about? So I told everybody we're going to have a small introduction from our team as well, but then what is going to be about for you? Like, what is the message, and what do you want the people that are going to participate to go home with?
Yes. See, dizziness or anything which occupies a thought space, overthinking is the commonest cause. Why are we overthinking? Because we have too many problems to tackle. We consider that as crisis, and that crisis is constant, and I don't have resources to fight back to that crisis. In this entire talk, what we are going to do is try to explore that instead of going into negative coping mechanism or something which is random, approach to healing the mind and the brain, we will give them a very systematic approach. I'm going to cover a certain kind of breath work. There are 5 different types of breathing techniques that I'm going to share in this workshop, where in different types of crisis, how to breathe differently. Because if you notice that in different type of crisis, our breath changes.
Of course.
Different emotions create different breath work. Right now, also, if you hold your finger and try to breathe out, you will see one of the nostrils predominantly is breathing out more air compared to the other. So, which means that there are meridians that are governing an energy flow, which can be completely regulated through a certain kind of breath work. I'm also going to cover a certain, tapping technique through
Yeah.
the part of the body where that crisis is felt physiologically or physically. How to calm down with the cause and effect. So I'm going to share some of these, thoughts where a coping mechanism which is non-invasive and drugless, and then making it a habit that before going off to sleep, how to master the mind. I'm going to cover what is stress all about, how mind gets stressed, how to tame that stress, how to pull resources from your subconscious mind that you've already had, but you don't have the intelligence to pull that, not get ruffled by anything and everything which is happening in the environment, because the environment will never be in your control. What is in your control is your own inside out process. So we'll talk about, all these concepts which physiologically create stress and
Fantastic.
tension for us.
Okay, this is fantastic. And I do believe that, I mean, not just I believe, I've seen that many people, whenever they learn how to breathe, they start to feel better. Just today, I had a couple of people texting me about the fact that the intensity, also their tinnitus, because now we are expanding the sections on the tinnitus on the app. So we're asking some feedbacks on patients. You know, tinnitus, nobody really knows. It's this phantom noise. I mean, we know that the auditory cortex is probably fired up in a way they shouldn't. And what many of them is that through meditation and learning not to think about them, learning to breathe, learning to distract their mind, and the intensity completely decreases. So I think there's going to be so many people that can benefit out of what you're going to teach them. Yeah.
Even as the symptom, when few things shoot up in the body, like you said, you mentioned auditory cortex shooting up with certain kind of intensity of voices coming in and you get disturbed. These are the people who were shouted upon a lot in the childhood by one or the other parent, and some high decibel, chaos that they've lived through. So today they tend to give up. Even on the slightest raise of a voice, they break down. It reminds them of the whole chaotic childhood. Maybe there are war children there where there was bombing that was happening constantly. There was some kind of a chaos in the environment, and we know that this region has witnessed a lot of such,
Yeah,
uh,
sure.
historical war moments where people do tend to recall some of those memories and they go into panic. And
Yeah, I also believe
always
that.
have association.
Yeah, these are massive, but I also believe there is a mechanical reason. Some people, like my generation, we go clubbing, right? And we all have ear problems
Yes,
now
yes, yes.
because of the high noises. But still, even if it's mechanical, you can learn through meditation not to be subjected to this noise, like to ignore it or to be able to manage it. Another thing I'd like to ask you, so what about panic attacks? So a lot of patients, sometimes they do report having the panic attacks, the fear of not being able to control their environments. And this, of course, if you have a chronic condition, if you are really, the balance system we in cognitive also, and in the way we process the environment is fundamental, because once you know where you stand in space, that this is how I
The
am,
center.
everything feels all right. But the moment you lose this sense of not being able to find yourself in a three-dimensional space, of course, they feel very displaced. So panic attack can happen. What do you do on how is your experience to work with people that have panic attacks?
So when it comes to chronic diseases where it goes into clinical side, where panic attack or clinical depression or anxiety, which is chronic, again, sleeplessness, insomnia, all of these, when we try to treat, there's a different approach because as I mentioned, thoughts, emotions, energy, and physical body. So not all the clients with a negative outlook can go straight into the subconscious mind because subconscious mind is a 6,000 times more powerful entity. So what we do, we have a bottom to top approach, which is from the body to the meridians or chakras. From chakras, we increase the presence until the sleep cycle becomes correct, and then working with their emotion because panic is something where my incapability of handling, my emotions or what is coming from the environment, and I don't have a known defense to that situation, and I'm feeling completely chaotic. Now I need to look for that lost resource again with inner child work, or when we go regression, we get that part of the consciousness and the coping mechanism back to the body, where we start learning managing emotions slowly, gradually, manage energy, manage the bodily resources, and then eventually recovering the thought. So every panic attack has a point of entry from where the panic has started. Sometimes panic attack also comes from a past life. I'm a past life regression therapist as well, where the root cause to the environment and the stimulus from the environment which is coming in is causing the panic because that has been the cause of my death in a previous birth. So sometimes it is also coming, and I know that I might sound crazy for those people who do not believe into a past life, but it could also be an ancestral life that ended in a certain way, and that ancestral DNA is also planted within me. So that panic is getting unlocked because someone was shot dead, someone was raped,
Sure.
someone was killed, someone died of accident, someone died of see, I've actually worked with phobias, fear and phobias also, which results into panic for hematophobia, agoraphobia, nyctophobia,
Yeah, sure.
height, all of that. So that also has some kind of an impression, that is stuck in the subconscious primitive. I will talk about the mind, that what are the different chambers, like the way heart has chambers, the mind also has different layers. I'm going to demystify how mind functions and how the panic gets created, and from the software, which is the mind, to the hardware, which is body and the brain, the symptoms get triggered,
Yeah.
and how we can, just by working with the mind, can also tame the entire breakdown which is happening in the body. So
Okay.
we will work through all these
And
panic and
yeah. And
all of these things.
also, again, breathing techniques that I can just learn and do on the home. I can
Yes,
really
yes,
help and
yes.
change that.
And when to do what kind of breathing
Yeah.
technique is also which something I'll share.
Okay, fantastic. I know that, yeah, many people, they don't believe in all the things that we discussed, but that's
I know. No,
whatever.
that's why I said that it might, but see, again, I'm not here to prove whether that works or not. As I said, it comes from something which is there in my system, which is
Sure,
in my DNA. We all know that DNA carries all the information of all the diseases,
sure, sure.
across time and space, which has come into me as a person, because I'm a product of so many generational, experiences that have come into me for who I am from my mother's side, from my
This is the
father's side.
holistic. This is the same in homeopathy, in many other type of medicine, Chinese medicine. But of course, if you say to other people in Western
Right.
medicine, they'll be like, "Ah, impossible." Yeah, I get it. I mean, whatever. At the end of the day, whatever works for the person, right? So,
Yes, yes. We are not here to change someone's basic belief system, but even if it is a metaphor, if a mind is looking at a visual, from a visual to visual rescripting in NLP, you don't go into a past life. You just simply say visual to visual rescripting. A visual that is not working for you to the visual that can start making you feel calmer, because your subconscious mind understands visuals better than words.
yeah, sure, sure. That's clear. Okay. Now that we touched base a little bit on a few things, so what will be, just out of curiosity, also for all the people that are interesting us. I know that you have a plan. I mean, you're definitely here to help people, to heal people. But what will be
Yes.
your mission in the next? What do you want to achieve, and what is something that you've dedicated your life to? I would really like to know this, also for the people at home listening to this. I think it's important to understand where you're coming from, so that they can and what you really want to bring. I think it's
Yes.
important.
I have dedicated my life to, you know, bring solutions for people to get empowered to deal with their diseases without any kind of, see, by the time it comes into the body, as I said, medicines do the best job, but how to not let discomfort from an emotional level to the physical body level. So I am dedicating my entire life to, first is a silent killer, which is anxiety,
Mhm.
panic disorders, and anything which is clinical that has a history, and that history can be treated completely with hypnotherapy. So working with the mind and making every person in this world become aware of how to deal with the mind, and how to understand that everything and all the resources are within me, and how I can handle myself better without the help and support from the outside world. So emotional independence is my
This is
mission.
fantastic. This is really, really important, because despite we want to be a platform of support for these patients, one of the things that we notice all the time is that the patients, they want somebody to fix their problem. So they come to you and they're like, okay, this is our issues, this is how I feel, please give me a quick fix, I have to go on. So what you're saying is exactly in line with our message. Is like, yes, we can help you, but you need to do the work, you need to take the responsibility, because
Exactly.
this is what happen all the time. They kind of put it on the clinician, the physician, the
Yeah,
nutrition,
yeah.
whoever that person is, to be like, okay, you solve my problem. But this is more
Yes.
about accountability, because indeed it starts within you. And I
Within.
think it's a very powerful message to give to people that unfortunately they go through this very desperate moment, to feel like, yes, it's bad, we can hold your hands, but you have to do the work, which is
Yes.
very powerful, and I believe a bit controversial in the way that we are doing it right now. Okay.
Maybe it's all evidence based at the end of it, as
Yeah,
we,
sure.
again, as I said. So, use it to believe it, or experience it to believe it.
Exactly. Maybe do you want to give some our the people that really don't know about your work, some of your past experiences with some of your patients, so that they can
Yeah.
relate to the type of work you do?
Yes. Like, for example, one client came to me with hematophobia. And, when we say that there is some stimulus that is present within the environment, hematophobia, for those who don't know what hematophobia is the fear of blood. As you spot blood, even a drop, or even on the screen when you're watching a movie, and if blood comes or someone is being murdered, the person goes into a panic attack, and literally feels as if it is happening to the person. So there's one woman who I worked with in India, where she had hematophobia, and her husband was really fond of brutal movies and war movies, and all these kind of murder mysteries and stuff like that. See, it's like a perfect contract, soul contract when we say. She had to treat her hematophobia through her husband. So one such day, the husband got fed up because every time when he watches such a movie, the wife would actually come and nag him. There was a fight. So one day, husband actually caught hold of her and said, "No, today I'm going to remove your hematophobia." And he played a movie called 300. We all know this Spartans movie,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
movie is
That is
a
classic.
very, very very harsh movie. And he held her by her hand and said, "No, watch it. Today I will get rid of it." And she panicked and she fell down and she hit her head, and she went completely unconscious. And for 2 hours she did not come back to consciousness. He really panicked and rushed her to the hospital in the emergency room that something has gone wrong, I'm really sorry. And he was really guilty. So one of the medical professionals who knew me, and she had worked with me, and she said that while doing the medication, please go and work with Mr. Rajesh and see how this can be treated, because this is more of a software issue, nothing to do with the hardware. She's safe, no injury, just the bandage for her bruise that was there. And they came back. Next day when she sat with me, I regressed her back into a past life where she was a daughter of a tribal leader, because we trace it back to across time and space from where this is coming. So she regressed back into a past life, and where she said, that I'm a tribal, leader's woman, daughter. She falls in love with a man from another tribe who's a just average soldier, and she becomes pregnant. And the father comes to know about that she is illegitimately mother of a child. So he really felt so angry that he abducted that soldier and took him to the spot where they used to assassin people, like give them a death sentence. And he tied him with a pole and he was stoning him to death. So all the blood of that boy, who she was in love with, and she felt so agonized, where she went and actually hugged him. So father got even more angry. He stoned her also to death, and by the time she fell, father went and kicked her into the belly, where the child that she was carrying went into miscarriage, and all the blood. So last dying visual was the blood of the boyfriend who's dead,
Yeah.
and she dying, and the blood with the miscarriage. That's the last visual with which she died. So now when she's reincarnated, that impression stays with her, because we have a certain interface through which the soul contracts are made. Now that vibrational panic, the moment I dealt with that past life, and we do some healing there, her panic attack completely went. And after that, just to prove it to her husband, she watched that movie and prove it to herself, there was no somatic charge or panic, just in that one session. So, and even childhood traumas, that we've allergies, when I work with a lot of these psychosomatic disorders, where again, anything that happens, people meeting with accidents, for example, an accidental trauma. I work with surgical trauma recovery and accidental trauma recovery cases even more, where a certain part, the moment your body is going through any surgical procedures, the consciousness jumps out. The anesthesia causes tremendous amount of dissociation. That is how we are able to perform surgeries. So a lot of these cases also, through transpersonal regression therapy that we actually work with, I am trained into this whole work of going back into these memories, which stay as a cellular responses, or even tracing it back to the lineage from where something like this must have happened, and then there is,
Yeah.
some kind of an impression.
And I know that for people that don't know this type of work can sounds really crazy, but perhaps they should try it on themselves because it
Because
works.
4 types of regression happen. One is the current life regression.
Yeah,
Then
sure.
there's a lot that happened in the mother's womb.
The
That's called
childhood.
intrauterine. Intrauterine. Why the conception? How stressed the mother was. Was mother high on cortisol? That will affect the developmental stages of the child within the infancy, or the intrauterine to infancy, infancy to play age to school age, etc., early childhood, etc. So everything that comes up, we do have remedies and thoughts and energetic regressions that we do, which the mind knows, because mind knows almost everything, whatever that is happening into your body.
I
So it
see.
has its own mechanism to trace it back to the cause.
It's very fascinating, and I think it's important for people to understand because again we are a platform where we have so many different expertise that you the message I really want to strengthen is that you do work with, like, you get patients also from doctors. Your work really works, and I know it works. I've seen it, I witness it. It does really work. But of course, for people that have no idea about this type of work, and also they're not on the level that you are.
Let me give you a less complicated case without a past life evidence, maybe something of the current life. Like there was a playback singer who came to me for a session where her voice quality, she wanted to work on her, voice loss. And I said, okay, let's go back in time. And I said, how is it affecting you? She said, see, I'm a singer. When we are doing stage shows, even if a breath synchronizing doesn't happen, or when we are screaming, shouting, jumping, hopping, and we are doing stage shows, sound quality doesn't really matter because people enjoy and they are in a different trance. But when I'm doing studio recordings, even a deviation into my one note here and there is causing stress to the whole team, and we have to keep taking takes and retakes. And when my teacher is sitting in front of me, the one who has trained me, my guru, I get nervous and the voice quality starts getting upset, and he gets upset on me, which I want to work with. So I actually went back to her regression where she was a 3-year-old girl, and her mother, because obviously when guests come home and when a cute child is there, you want to make that child a puppet and say, hey, recite this rhyme, or demonstrate some kind of a cute behavior. So the mother came and told her, just say Baba Black Sheep, in front of the guests. And she didn't want to. So the first ever memory that she went back to, that she was playing and mother pulled her to recite this rhyme or poem. And she said, no, I don't want to. And mother labeled her, you're a bad girl. And I will never tell you to perform ever again in front of the guests. That stayed as a memory. Then she went to another memory, which was in the school, where she was just participating in an elocution competition, where her sequence was the first one to go and open the elocution, something that was happening on the stage. But last minute, her teacher pulled her back and sent another girl who she was fond of. So her entire confidence went down and she could not perform as well that she had to. So that was at 6 years. And then when she came into college, university days where she was hosting some kind of a annual program, and she blanked out because somebody threw the paper ball from the crowd to tease her. And she, looking at the audiences, she went completely blank. So these were the initiation, confirmation, and acceptance of a certain behavior that stays as a neurological association. And whenever you're faced with something which you can't control, the mind freezes and it stays as a memory and association. And that results into blankness, panic, when anything from the outside that triggers that fight and flight, uh, and then the freeze happens.
Yeah, and sometimes this is the thing. If you're not aware consciously, she might not even have ever recalled that memory.
Ever
This is
feel
why
it.
the subconscious mind is super important. These are, again, I want to strengthen. They really works. The work of Rajesh works incredibly, and that's why I'm a big fan. And that's why I encourage everybody that is following us to follow us on the 3rd of August, because you will learn a lot about it. And Rajesh, if the people would like to reach you, how would they do that? Can you just explain if you work online and where you're based?
I do work online. In fact, I have online clients. 80% of my clients, are from different parts of the world. We do sessions on Zoom, and they work as effectively as right now we are talking face to face on Zoom platform. With the only condition is a stable internet connection. So that's the only prerequisite. Otherwise, we work. I work with people from Nairobi. I work with people from Nepal, US, UK, Netherlands, Germany, all these places. I mean, Middle East also, the entire Egypt, and a lot of these places people work with me online. Online work is as effective.
And you're based, so the people just know.
I'm in Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi. Okay, fantastic. I think we have a few questions. Let me check from the people. Okay. How does hypnotherapy help anxiety? Well, kind of what you mentioned before, right?
Yes. Yes. Anxiety is, again, because of the unknown. Anxiety is never about the past. Anxiety is about the past not repeating in the future. So that is exactly the concern with which person comes in. With regression therapy, the moment you learn to deal with the past, in a correct resource, in a reference frame where you actually see yourself. Because for your subconscious mind, everything is happening simultaneously. The conscious mind understands time. But the moment you go back to the subconscious mind can regress and progress both ways. So what we do with a certain regression, what we tackle, what the child was not able to deal with, or the person as a younger self was not able to deal with, we repair that, rescript it, and then we play that with the future progression, that see how you're able to do it. And that is the integration that we do it, that now the unknown becomes known, and the anxiety is slowly, gradually, because anxiety is also one of the major causes for many other diseases and disorders that we go into. Like, for example, obesity. Mostly people, when they go into any eating disorder or anything which is to do with also, you know, uh, to do with weight and bodily discomfort, or many other things, fatty liver, or many
Sure.
other areas, we do have hypnotherapeutic techniques through which we help them not to feel anxious, and we desensitize several aspects of the anxiety, because anxiety is of two types. Let me also tell you that one anxiety which comes with a cause and goes with a cause, we call, in our lingo, we call it free floating anxiety. Now, free floating anxiety is something, let's say if someone doesn't come home early, the anxiety will be there. The moment that person comes in, the anxiety will be gone. Or sometimes you're watching a very crucial match, and what the result is going to be, or on the edge of the seat, you're watching a soccer match or a cricket match, and the result comes out, oh, who won, who lost, the anxiety will go, because you were just curious about the result, or interview call, for example. So that anxiety goes and comes with the understanding of the cause. But there is one anxiety, which is the anxiety which is called static anxiety, which is there perpetually, and we don't know for what reason it is. So there is again a repressed trauma from something that has happened in the past, which I anticipate that should not happen again. So there was one girl who came again as a client to me, 3.5 years of psychotherapy and psychiatric medications for that anxiety that she was fighting with, but nobody had taken her history. Just took the symptoms and started giving her the medications, but 3.5 years the medication did not stop. Now, when I started working with her, she replied to me with certain symptoms, which I then got to know that there is something that has happened in the childhood which she had never shared it with anyone, and she was actually sexually abused by her own cousin, which he had never told it. And that cousin is pretty much living with them in the same family. So whenever that cousin floats around, or even whenever, like in India, we have a ritual where we tie, Rakhi and all. So she has to go and tie the Rakhi as a ritual every year to him. And he reminds her of that abuse that she went through, and that she's not able to share it with the family, and that boy is still coming and physically harassing her in a way, and that was the anxiety all about, and which stayed with her, which she had never spoken to anyone. So there is something which is again repressed, that I'm not able to speak up to someone. When I treated her, she's completely healed within 2 years
Nice.
of the
Yeah,
journey.
this is the kind of things also to strengthen and to emphasize, is that you're always going to have moment of stress in your life. So it's
Yes.
not about, oh, let's eliminate the moment, the stress. It's never going to
No,
happen.
it is
But
there. It is pretty much
yeah,
there.
it's more about how you deal with it. Because even if you're going to go through challenging time, if you know how to breathe, how to bring yourself back, how to manage the stressful situation, how to find control, then I guess you have all the
Yes.
tools to
And
go.
breath work is still symptomatically treating it like a first aid, and calming yourself down and cutting down on the message units which are bothering you.
Exactly.
However, there is a treatment and a curative approach, as I said, that the healing of going back into regression and healing and recovering those parts is the sessions that one needs to also engage into. Just breath work may calm you down momentarily,
Yeah.
but will not ensure that it doesn't trigger again. So it's going to be an effort.
Yeah, then there is work that they have to put in, and these regressions are definitely something to explore. Okay, fantastic. Rajesh, I
Thank
guess
you.
we will leave everything on below, the contact also of Rajesh, and you can follow him also on the website, Happiness Solutions. And also we put your Instagram page so that people can follow you, and then we'll take it from there. Hopefully we see many of you joining his work on the 3rd of August. And that's it. Thank you so much for
Thank you so
dedicating
much.
this time, and we
Pleasure.
appreciate it, and we'll keep in touch. Thank you. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Thank you so much.